My daughter's garage here. Quick little install and review, I guess, of Orion Motor Tech. It's basically just slapping spacers onto a new body style Chevy. It's a GMT 800 2004. I'm sure you guys have seen it before. So anyway, spacers I got originally, I had gotten 1-inch spacers. And the 1-inch spacer, here's the problem. There's so many different things you need to keep in mind. You need lug pattern, which is 6 by 5.5, I believe. It's an equivalent millimeter as well, but 6 by 5.5. You need, I think the hub bore is 76. You need the spacer size. You need the 14 by 1.5 thread pitch, because you're obviously going to be threading onto your stocks, and then you have new ones that are going to use your stock lug nuts. The other thing you need to take in mind, or keep in mind, is how big of a spacer are you using, because not all wheels have the space behind. See, this one has a gap behind where it can kind of accommodate the stud sticking through into these openings. But I had originally ordered a 1-inch spacer and it didn't get the job done. The extra 1/2 inch here exposed too much of this, and it would hit the back of the wheel before it sat flush with the hub. The other issue I think I'm having, which could be a machining issue, but I think they machine it to the hub bore size and then they powder coat it, or however they treat it, and it adds a little bit of thickness to the size. So I was actually having a hard time. I tightened it down, but I always think about what a nightmare it's going to be to take off later. So I got my little angle grinder or whatever to smooth out, and I kind of just took a little bit just to kind of take a little bit of material off the edge. It's not very pretty and it's uneven kind of, but I just took a little bit of the coating just on the edge so that it could pull itself onto the center. And then I took a wire wheel and I went to town on here, putting some grease. I put some high temp grease or bearing grease or whatever, and then I cleaned this up so that it's as smooth as it can possibly be to put itself on. I put a screwdriver into the top of the caliper so that when you torque down, you're not using the gears to hold it. I torqued to 140, and they include Loctite, the permanent Loctite. I personally am not a fan. I already know what a nightmare these can be to remove, especially with the high-end Ichiba and Eibach ones back in the day, where they have soft aluminum nuts holding it. No thank you. And I know that the intent of that was so that you could drill them out or whatever if you had a problem, but no thanks. I'd rather steel on steel, or steel on I guess that is steel on aluminum. This might be steel, actually. They're pretty freaking heavy. Anyway, that's it. Torque them down to 140, put the wheel back on, 140. And the reason I did it is because of the fender flares that my buddy Brian at Paint Society paint matched. Quality's not the best, but for 175 bucks you can't complain. And the paint is incredible. I'm talking about the actual fender flares. But see how sunken in that is? It just does not get the job done. Now look at this side. Look at that. And it's lifted right now with it being jacked on the other side, so it's lifted up, but it's pretty flush now. See? Looking good.